Exactly 1 year ago today, we got caught in a huge forest fire that destroyed 90% of our district. This is the story of what happened that day and how we've bounced back from the most terrifying experience of our lives. Resilience, courage, commitment and determination can get a lot done in a year, especially with some help along the way. It had been really hot in the months up to the fire. It hadn't rained since January and the land was parched. Me and Steve had done some publicity shots in the morning for the TV series Help We Bought a Village, and this is the view that was behind us. Very pretty, very green, very windy, very hot. Our volunteer João, who happened to be Portuguese, had been helping Steve to start building the pergola. Stanley, our latest rescue dog, had only arrived 3 weeks earlier. He was very underweight and couldn't walk properly because of his broken leg. All the dogs were looking for somewhere cool to rest. It was absolutely boiling and it just kept getting hotter, peaking at 43 degrees by mid-afternoon. We were all on the lookout for any signs of fire, and it was a good job we were. Smoke began to rise rapidly across the valley. It's often hard to gauge how far away a fire is, but in this instance it soon took hold of the ridge opposite Chumbaria. I'd been in regular contact with my close friend Julie throughout the afternoon. She lives at the top of the valley and had a better view of the direction the fire was heading. She said it was massive, but the wind direction was away from us. Even so, we started to think seriously about what would happen next as we watched the fire gain momentum. Adrenaline was ramping up and panic was starting to kick in. Then Julie called to say the wind direction had changed and the fire was heading towards us both. The sky went black, the heat and smoke was increasing and ash was starting to fall. It was time to evacuate. The fire was headed straight towards Chumbaria. It was terrifying for us and the dogs as we drove up to the main road. We had no clue what we'd find, but the fire was still heading towards Chumbaria and not towards our escape route, so we pegged it across to the opposite valley. As we began our journey, hopefully to safety, we were terrified because the roads were full of smoke, there was pockets of fire everywhere, ash was falling, and we really didn't want to die in our vehicles. At this moment, I also had a call from Julie to say the flames were at their door. They couldn't drive away because the road was on fire. She thought they might be done for. We couldn't go back for them because the valley was on fire. We had to continue our journey not knowing if we'd see them again. It was awful. We paused on the other side of the valley for a minute and looked back. Smoke and fire was everywhere. Helicopters were flying around, dousing the flames. It was like a scene from the apocalypse and truly terrifying. We didn't know if Chumbaria was caught in the middle of it, but we kind of knew it was. Talking about it now really brings the full force of the horror back. Excuse me. João kindly took us to his grandmother's house 30 kilometres away. It was a surreal and traumatic journey, not knowing if we'd have a house, a village, or even Julie and Mick to go back to, thinking about all the stuff we'd left behind, and sitting for hours at João's grandmother's with ash floating down, not knowing what was happening was awful. So many scenarios play out in your head. Evacuating, you're full of adrenaline, then shock kicks in, and once you're safe, you start getting flashbacks. It's pretty harrowing. We finally got a phone call at 1 a.m. from a neighbour to say the bomberos, firefighters, had been fighting the fire at our village for hours and that Chumbaria had been saved. More importantly, we heard Julie and Mick were safe, although they were suffering with burns and smoke inhalation. It was such a relief. Unbeknown to us, this is what had happened to Chumbaria in a matter of hours. Watching this footage for the first time in a year really brings home how lucky we were and what a narrow escape we had. It's weird looking at the footage to see how the fire came down the valley, across all of our land, but missed other sections of the valley. It was strange that some sections had been totally eradicated, and yet our chickens had survived. Some of our vegetables were still growing, and our new chairs hadn't even been singed. Fire is as unpredictable as the wind is unpredictable. Rising temperatures in the world sadly mean forest fires rage all over the planet, and we realised we'd just survived a huge one. We know the fire raged for miles in multiple directions, burning right up to neighbouring villages. It destroyed thousands of acres of land. Everything you see that's brown is burnt. This fire was of epic proportions and took out nearly 90% of our district. Unbelievably, no one was killed, which is kind of miraculous given all you can see for miles is devastation. Anything that's not green is burnt. We didn't get much sleep and headed back to Chumbaria at first light. The sight that met us was heartbreaking. Not only was our land destroyed, but Krastul, the village on the opposite ridge, was ablaze. It looked as if the whole village would be burnt to the ground. It was dreadful.
That's Cresto.
The houses are up there. Look.
I know, but look.
Yeah.
Okay.
However, we watched as the skilled firefighters, bomberos on the ground and absolutely brilliant pilots brought the blaze under control. These guys fly to the nearest estuary about 7 minutes flight time, collect water and drop it in the front of the fire to head it off. They're really amazing. Krastul was saved and no lives were lost. It was a good result. Sadly, we then turned our attention to our own land, and it was nothing short of devastating. Ash everywhere, smouldering trees and branches, hotter and smokier than ever. It was like a scene out of the apocalypse. When you looked at our escape routes on both sides burnt to the ground, it really hit home what a lucky escape we'd had and how right we were to evacuate when we did. We were heartbroken. All our hard work on the land over the last 2 years went up in smoke in one night. We'd planted 150 trees in our food forest, only a handful survived. Our compost bay was a smouldering pile of ash. Our worm tank had burnt horribly and all our worms had died. Everywhere you looked, you didn't know what to do or where to start on repairing the damage. So how the hell were we going to start on the clean-up, the repair, the replanting, the everything? We were traumatised, exhausted, it was still really hot and smoky, and small fires were still popping up randomly along the ridge. Like most people in life, we faced a number of hurdles and challenges, especially since we arrived at Chumbaria. But this was honestly one of our lowest points. The task ahead was simply overwhelming. We had no water, electricity, no internet, and stuff was still burning. I took the 4 dogs to our friends Yana and Neil, who looked after us for 2 days. I think I cried non-stop the whole time. Meanwhile, Steve and Joao stayed at Chumbaria to make things safe enough for me and the dogs to come back. The TV production company who make Help We Bought a Village call us the bounce back couple. I honestly don't think either of us knew how the hell we were going to bounce back from this one, but we were determined that somehow we would. Luckily, help was at hand. At Chumbaria, we host a lot of volunteers. In fact, we've had over 50 in the last 2 years. They're all ages and come from all sorts of different countries, and they're an integral part of our life here. We had 5 volunteers booked to come and gave them the option to cancel. None of them did, and they all arrived eager and willing to help start on the clean-up and rebuild. It was hot, filthy, hard work, but everyone pulled their weight and things started to get fixed and tidied up. We also had friends and family along the way who helped with the massive clean-up job and have been such a great source of support for us, especially at a time when I think we both had PTSD. To have such an influx of energy and love, as well as some much needed laughs, was amazing. People came and went, and we started to see improvements, but it was still hot and dry, and certain jobs like fixing fence posts was impossible. The ground was just too hard. It was still hot and fires were still popping up, some closer than others. I was in hyper-vigilant mode for the rest of the summer, even though there was nothing left to burn around us. And then it started to rain, and it basically didn't stop for 3 solid months. We went from one extreme to another. There doesn't appear to be seasons anymore, just weather that becomes more extreme and less predictable. However, turning the problem into the solution is a good phrase in permaculture, and our next lovely set of volunteers were able to fix the remaining fence posts, and they got absolutely soaked every day. A quick shout out here to all the volunteers we've had over the years. They've all brought something new and unique to Chumbaria and have helped us enormously. In our own small way, Chumbaria is creating a little global community of people who are interested in what we do. It's a really nice part of our journey, and we learn a lot from the volunteers who come and spend time with us, and we really appreciate all their hard work. So it rained for 3 months and then the sun came out and our land had a chance to regenerate. And as spring came, so did the beautiful buttercups. Chumbaria literally rose like the phoenix from the ashes. As did Stanley, who's thrived in the last year. He's gone from 38 kilos, unable to walk, to a massive 61 kilos with full mobility. A lot of love goes a long way. Well done, Stanley. The best piece of advice we got when we moved to Portugal was from a Portuguese friend, Sonny, who said if you buy land on a ridge in a valley full of eucalyptus trees, you must create a fire break. We spent 3 years chopping down trees and brambles 4 metres high. It certainly saved our village and we continue to maintain that fire break. This is what the land of Chumbaria looks like today. There's still a lot of strimming to do and it's very dry and windy, but we've had a lot of rain this year and temperatures are lower than last year. There's no telling if we'll experience another fire whilst we're here, but next time we'll stay and fight. We've learnt a lot and are much better prepared. If you live in a village with other people, all the neighbours pull together to share water, hoses, etc. When you live in a village on your own, you are your only neighbours. We've still got a lot of dead trees to chop down, but that'll happen in the winter. Meanwhile, our vegetables and plants are growing well, and finally, 1 year later, the pergola is finished, complete with lovely bunting. Work is progressing well on the first 2 houses in the village, and all of our houses will be insulated with hempcrete, which is fire retardant. We're immensely proud to have become part of the history of Chumbaria. We're the bounce back couple who saved the village from being wiped out by fire on July 12th, 2022. How amazing is that? Thanks for watching. We hope you found it interesting, and if you did, please like and subscribe to our channel. There'll be more videos to come. Bye for now. Take care.